Thank you all so much for taking time out on your Sunday morning to join us. And I'd like to thank all of you for being here, and also we'd like to thank our sponsors for today's program. It's been sponsored through a generous grant from the Jewish Communal Fund 40-Year Fund, Patty Gray and Jenny Schurer, Debbie and Rick Epstein, Life Legacy donors with the support of Parker Specialty, Sure Funeral Home, Star Tires, Temple Bet Shalom, and with the cooperation of the Jewish Federation, Jewish Foundation, and the JCC of Greater New Haven. At this time, I'd like to introduce Rabbi Dina Judd, who will be presenting and leading us in an invocation. Rabbi Judd. Rabbi Judd is recently retired after over 2 decades as the director of the Herald House Jewish Life Pontifical University, and Rabbi Judd is the first full-time university rabbi. Rabbi Judd.
I love this. I know. I know. In the summer of 2024, my husband and I visited the old Jewish cemetery in Gdansk, Poland. I was trying to find the grave of my deceased father's dead infant brother, Willie, who died in 1932 and was buried there. The cemetery was fenced off at the very end of a 1970s Soviet gray housing project and was cared for with the grass cut low enough that you could make out the long ago Hebrew letters in stones laid hundreds of years back. Memorials that had been bent over backwards were standing up straight. There was one large and attended to stone from a 15th century rabbi. We did not find Willie, but my love for my great uncle, whom I never had met, was even stronger than before. This invocation prayer is a reflection of that experience. Death does not end relationships, nor does it crush love. Love continues, often growing wild in death like plants left unattended. Humanity was created to love and to be loved back, and death does not change that. Cemeteries and top dresser drawers filled with cherished personal mementos are the final resting places of lasting love. Cemeteries listen to our deepest prayers, lamentations we have the courage to whisper only to God in time. Cemeteries occupy land punctuated throughout the ages by the newly wept tears of strangers and distant family, and when no one sees, by God. Cemeteries are not places of quiet weakness, but speak to the power of loving and being loved. If you listen carefully, you can hear the love spoken in countless languages long since forgotten. The words we speak in cemeteries convey overwhelming grief and unspeakable love. We have come together to acknowledge and thank the countless caretakers of Jewish cemeteries throughout the world, of yesteryear and of now, who attend to our ancestors we continue to love. We have come together to thank the Jewish Cemetery Association and Andy for their patient, caring, and dedication. And we've come together to thank God, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Dayan ha'emet, the Judge of Truth.
you, Rabbi Judd. At this time, I'd like to ask Andy Weinstein to come up and take over the mic. Andy is president of the Jewish Cemetery Association of Greater New Haven.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. As president of the Jewish Cemetery Association, it's my distinct privilege to welcome you all. We gather not just to hold an annual brunch, but to engage in a deeply meaningful act of remembrance and gratitude. Today, we take a moment to honor three men whose vision and dedication established the very foundation of our organization. Bob Goodman, Lester Margolis, and Steve Saltzman. When they recognized that our historic burial grounds had fallen into neglect, they transformed that concern into a mission grounded in dignity and preservation. Putting together an event like this shows that this mission is no small task. I want to extend my deepest thanks to Executive Director Andy Hodis for all the hard work organizing today's program, to our committee chairs, Rabbi Skolnick and Jimmy Shore, to our entire event committee for their dedication bringing us all together. We are honored to have Rabbi Skolnick as our keynote speaker to address the theme, Death Does Not End the Relationship. I would like to thank our generous supporters, including the Jewish Communal Fund, the Life and Legacy donors, and all of our event sponsors, whose commitment ensures that this vital mission continues from generation to generation. Thank you for being here to honor our past and to support our future in this sacred work. I would like to call upon Lisa Stenger to give some remarks. She has been here from the beginning and has some insight as to the organization and its findings.
One of my first assignments when I came to the Jewish Foundation was to work on the cemetery initiative. And that's all it was at that point, just an initiative. Lester Margolis, Bob Goodman, and Steve Saltzman saw the need. Many of the Jewish cemeteries, especially in the Jewel Street area, were in terrible disrepair. And it was clear that over the next several years, more would fall into neglect as synagogues such as Young Israel closed, and organizations that had once been major civic and social institutions, organizations like Farban or Vilner, ceased operations. We called a meeting of all the rabbis, and they came. Lester, Bob, and Steve did not know much about cemeteries, but they knew about community. They saw a need and they did something about it. They brought in Jimmy Shore and Danny Klein, Lucille Alderman, Aaron Cohen, and others. Steve's firm, Brighter Saltzman, did all the legal work pro bono, corporate papers, applying to become a tax-exempt organization. And a special thank you to Sam Hurwitz for working with me on all of that. And from all of this, the Jewish Cemetery Association of Greater New Haven was born. Back then, everyone was hands-on. I remember one Friday, Andy Hodis asked me to please check, he had to go away, and he needed me to check the groundhog traps in the Jewel Street Cemetery. Because the way it worked, the trapper was, you weren't allowed to just let them die. You had to check them every so often, because the trapper then would remove them and bring them somewhere else to live the rest of their lives, I guess. It would cost extra to have the trapper track them. So Andy himself would check on them, to have him check on them. So Andy was checking on them. He was going away. He asked me to. So it's Friday afternoon in the summer. It's like 99 degrees, and I go out to the cemeteries, and one of the traps has this groundhog in it. And it's like in the sun, and it's like, looks so sad. I go to my car, and I get a bottle of water, which was warm anyhow, and I pour it on it. And then I realized Andy and I hadn't discussed what happens if I do see there's a groundhog in the trap. It's like Friday afternoon, so I'm calling him, Andy, there's a groundhog in the trap. What do I do? And I keep leaving him messages. Finally, he got through to the trapper, who presumably removed it. And the groundhog might still be living to this day. Lo lacha hamlacha ligmor is an ancient Jewish teaching from Pirkei Avot that translates, it is not your duty to complete the work, but neither are you free to desist from it. Today, the Cemetery Association has 19 endowment funds, and they're only about 20 years old. totaling over $555,000 and another $2.5 million in legacy commitments. Lester, Bob, and Steve certainly did not desist, yet the work is not complete. The Cemetery Association today owns 16 cemeteries and is responsible for another 27. We all need to help them complete the work. Thank you.
I would like to call upon Steve Saltzman to say a few words. Steve is one of the founders, continues to this day as an officer, as our vice president, continues to do a lot of work for us pro bono, including deeds and transfers of properties when we acquire new cemeteries. So I'm going to bring this down to the floor. Steve Saltzman.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. Thanks, family and friends. What you're hearing from me, you're going to hear repeatedly, and that makes it true. In 1994, after 2 years as president of the Jewish Federation of Greater New Haven, I became chairman of the Jewish Foundation of Greater New Haven. It was pointed out to me by Lester Margolis of blessed memory that we had 27 Jewish cemeteries in Greater New Haven and 45 total in the Jewish Federation service area. Many of the cemeteries were in terrible condition. In 2004, I proceeded to create the Jewish Cemetery Association of Greater New Haven, with the intention that it would oversee the care and upkeep of all the cemeteries. I asked my good friend Bob Goodman to be president of the new organization. He had been president of B'nai Jacob, but most importantly, he was good friends with both Jim Shore and Danny Klein, the two Jewish funeral home directors in New Haven. The new organization proceeded to hire Andy Hodis as executive director. Together, Andy Hodis, Andy Weinstein as the current president, Lauren Brown, the secretary, Eric Holt, Henlin, the treasurer, have accomplished the goals of improving and caring for the grounds of the many of the cemeteries. As Jews, we are providing a dignified and respectful resting place for our loved ones. The Saltzman Family Fund was established immediately for the benefit of the Cemetery Association so that its mission can be continued from generation to generation. What you just heard from Lisa Stanger is how many more have occurred in the last few years, which is just a wonderful takeoff of the idea that really just began 2.5 decades ago. And we thank you all for coming and supporting us, and we hope you don't have to use our services too quickly. Okay, all.
David Margolis, the son of Lester, of blessed memory, has a few remarks.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here to honor Bob Goodman, Stephen Saltzman, and my dad, Lester Margolis, as the founders of the Jewish Cemetery Association. For those of you who knew my dad, he was an individual who saw things as black and white, right or wrong. He was the type to quietly see something that needed to be done and just go ahead and do it. And that's really what led him to his involvement in the Jewish Cemetery Association back in 2004. He saw something that didn't sit right with him, cemeteries in our community that had fallen into neglect, and to him that just wasn't about maintenance. It was about dignity, it was about respect for the people who came before us, and a responsibility to make sure they were remembered properly. That was how he was wired. What I think is most meaningful is that he didn't just recognize the problem, he helped bring people together to do something about it. And over time, with the work of this organization and so many dedicated people in this room, these cemeteries were restored into places of respect and care, and I know that would have meant a great deal to him. But beyond that, to us, his family, he was just Dad, a steady presence, someone who led by example, who believed in doing the right thing without needing credit for it, and who cared deeply about his family and his community. My sisters and I are incredibly proud of him, not just for what he accomplished here, but for the kind of person he was every day. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Tammy Greenberg is here. She is Bob Goodman's daughter, and she's got a few remarks.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Andy, Eric, and everybody that's involved in planning this special event honoring Mr. Margolis, Mr. Saltzman, and my dad, Bob Goodman. My dad, if you knew him, I think you'd agree that he was all about community service. Not because he felt obligated, but because he genuinely wanted to make the world and this community, more specifically, a better place. He gave without expecting recognition. He was incredibly generous with his time, with his love for family and friends, and with his resources. He was always helping those that were in need, and yes, oftentimes, or sometimes, that help came with a lecture or a lesson, but it always came. The Jewish Cemetery Association of Greater New Haven meant so much to him. I remember as a little girl, before the high holidays, on birthdays, and on special anniversaries, my dad would visit the cemetery. He always had in the trunk of his car a brush, cleaning solution, and a weeder. And he would sit there for hours, carefully tending to the resting places of his parents, my grandparents, his daughter, my sister, and others. He made sure that they were cared for, respected, and pristine. So when you think about those moments and the fact that service was simply part of who he was, it's no surprise that the Jewish Cemetery Association was born. And the fact that he built it alongside two of his closest friends makes it even more meaningful. So on behalf of myself, my sister Donna, who is in California in a tent somewhere right now, my brother Scott, who is in Florida, and our entire family, Stacy, Lindsay, Elliot, Emma, Sophia, Daxton, Luca, and Enzo, we're deeply grateful for this honor, recognizing the founders of the Jewish Cemetery Association. And on behalf of my dad, I'll simply say this and keep it short, because as many people have already reminded me, he has said meetings should never go more than an hour, and my speech should never go more than 30 seconds. Keep doing what you're doing, continue the legacy, and above all, keep it clean. Thank you.
Often about 55 minutes into a meeting, I have to invoke the Bob Goodman rule. We're done in 5 minutes, so anybody else has something to say, you better say it fast. Eric Hedlund is our treasurer. He has been with the organization for decades and does a lot of work pro bono. He is our right hand, and he's got some comments for us today.
Thank you, Andy. Good morning, everybody. I came to this organization mostly because, for those who don't know, Bob Goodman is a cousin, and one of Bob's first things that he did when he and Steve and Lester formed the organization was they got my father involved as well, because at the time he was running the cemeteries for the Or Shalom cemeteries in Orange, West Haven, and Shelton. Generationally, that's been passed down to me, so I'm now carrying the torch. I do want to, thank everybody that worked on the committee for putting this together, and especially all the sponsors, but also want to thank everybody that's here today to support, recognize three great people, as well as some supporting the Cemetery Association. They asked me to speak a little bit about the Life Legacy Program that the Cemetery Association is working in coordination with the Jewish Foundation. For those of you who don't know that, about 5-6 years ago, the foundation, along with the Linspoon Foundation of Massachusetts, set up a program for all the various charities and organizations in the New Haven area to help develop and build legacy programs to develop their endowments and make sure that they had sufficient assets and funds to operate on a long-term basis. As you can recognize, Cemetery Association, our time horizon is infinite. We need to make sure that the cemeteries are operated and maintained in perpetuity. So we gladly have been working with the foundation over the years. As Lisa and her staff have worked with us hand in hand, and they've been very generous in their time in helping us out. We currently have, as I think Lisa indicated, about $500,000 of current assets that have been donated with additional commitments. We're diligently working every day, looking for additional commitments from individuals to help support the 16 cemeteries that we currently own and operate. As is mentioned, and as you'll see in the pictures, to maintain the cemeteries is definitely an ongoing challenge. The needs are many. The money is always tight. We look to do what we can. We're always looking to do more, and there's always a need for more. The Life Legacy Program does allow us, and does allow everybody a lot of flexibility, either through current donations or through legacy donations in estate planning, or to leave as a beneficiary of IRA. So anytime that anybody is looking forward or looking to do their planning, please reach out to us, please reach out to Lisa and her staff, not only for the Jewish Cemetery Association, but for all the organizations that in the New Haven area that are near and dear to your hearts. As part of that, we wanted today to also, in the spirit of that we're a cemetery association, have an unveiling, and we've developed and put together a plaque to commemorate all of the donors, legacy donors to the Cemetery Association. This plaque will be mounted here at the building with the Federation, the JCC, just off the lobby, I think Andy said. So at this time, I'd like to call up Andy, and Steve, Tammy, and David to unveil our plaque. Do it down. We'd also like to thank Jerry Barker and his group for actually getting the plaque for us and getting it all done. So thank you, Jerry.
Maybe I step here the light coming from the projector on everybody's face.
Okay.
Okay. For everybody, it says, the Jewish Cemetery Association of Greater New Haven
honors its founders, Robert Goodman, Lester Margolis, Stephen Saltzman, and recognizes the support of all the life and legacy donors.
One more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Folks, Parker did such a great job to be able to get, not the last, but the least, the Samuel Adam Margolis Memorial Fund for the benefit of the Jewish Cemetery Association, which was established by David Margolis.
Rabbi Benjamin Skolnick has served as the spiritual leader of Temple Beth Shalom in Hamden since 1983. He's a distinguished scholar with a PhD in Bible from the Jewish Theological Seminary, a prolific author and former Daniel Jeremy Silver Fellow at Harvard University. He has taught at Yale, UConn, and the Jewish Theological Seminary, cemetery on my mind, while contributing to the landmark JCAGNH Torah commentary. Beyond his academic and rabbinical achievements, he is past president of the Greater New Haven Board of Rabbis, a dedicated community youth basketball coach, and a board member here at the Jewish Cemetery Association of Greater New Haven. We are honored to welcome such a respected leader and friend to share the insights and support the Jewish Cemetery Association. Rabbi Skolnick.
Hold on 1 second.
We were here Friday morning to make sure this did not happen.
The Cemetery Association apologizes for all the sketch time.
This was working an hour ago.
Anyway, thank you, everybody. So, death does not end the relationship. When somebody passes away, what do? And people will come and say that they're sorry. A loved one passes away, everybody tells you they're sorry that your loved one is gone, but what you feel inside says something different. Gone, your loved one's voice echoes in your thoughts. Their habits, their jokes, or even how they saw the world lives on in how you act and see things now. The bond doesn't die. They don't feel gone. Grief is not about forgetting or moving on. You have to find a new shape for the relationship, one that fits with absence, but still holds presence. Talking to them in your thoughts or out loud, keeping their traditions or values alive, feeling their influence in your choices, noticing how they show up in memories and in your dreams, carrying on something that they cared about. Now let's talk for a few minutes about the structure of Jewish mourning. The person passes away. and you enter something called aninut, which is a kind of limbo. You have to run around and make the calls and make the arrangements, and you're in sort of a surrealistic situation because it really happened. You knew it was going to happen at some point, but now it's really happened. And you're under no religious obligations. And then you go to the funeral. And at the funeral, the last part of it is shoveling the dirt. And as my friend Jimmy Shure says at every funeral, they can't say thank you now. It's something that you do for them, and they can't say thank you. And then you're in Shiva. You're in the 7-day period of intense mourning that begins with the burial. And hopefully there'll be community support for the mourner, and it will reinforce your social bonds. Then at the end of Shiva, you walk around the block to get back into the world. And then there's Shloshim, the 30-day period of less intensive mourning. And then eventually there's the unveiling, something which was not in Jewish law, but it comes from people's hearts. We need to go back to the grave with our loved ones to say something very simple, which is, we still love you. And then after a year, there's the yahrzeit. And during that year, you've been saying the mourner's Kaddish. This is a prayer I think you all know that's recited by mourners, part of the structured grieving process. And the Kaddish is a prayer of praise and sanctification of God, not a prayer for the deceased soul, like some people say. It's a way for mourners to connect with their community and express their grief while also honoring the departed. And I want to mention just a few other Jewish concepts. One is Mechaye HaMeitim. We say it every day. Some of us say it 3 times a day. Blessed art thou, O God. And what does it mean? I think it means who keeps the dead alive. That is, we don't think of them as dead at all, and God is keeping them alive. And some of us who are more mystical have something called Gilgulim. We believe that some of us are reincarnations of our deceased ancestors. And we have all these things. Maybe the greatest comfort is naming children for the deceased. I remember my grandmother who had lost her husband, whose name was Ben, at a very young age, and she would get mixed up because my name is Ben. And somehow that bond, her grief somehow got channeled into me in a very loving way. And it's a very beautiful thing when we name children and grandchildren for the deceased. And then we have all our biblical texts and our rabbinic texts about death. And our texts emphasize the balance between expressing sorrow and accepting death as a part of life. And it starts at the very beginning of the Bible. Then the Lord God formed a man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. By the sweat of your brow, God says, you will eat your food, until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you will return. So an individual must bury their dead. What is the community's obligation? That's what we're talking about today. Well, you come to the funeral, and you come to Shiva, but does it end there? Where does the community's obligation end? So we have an obligation as a community. We establish this association for this very reason. The work of the Jewish Cemetery Association of Greater New Haven is the ongoing stage of our mourning rituals. Our work is continuing the community's relationship with our people who have passed on. Caring for all these cemetery properties is how our community shapes and sustains its enduring connection with those who came before us. Just as our relationships with our loved ones do not end with their deaths, the community must continue its relationship with our people who have passed on. Every cemetery that we protect and we preserve holds countless memories. We honor them through this sacred trust. So let's remember the death of the first Jewish woman. Sarah lived to be 127 years, and she died in Kiryat Arba, that's Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham went to mourn for Sarah and to weep over her. And he rose up from beside his dead wife, and he spoke to the Hittites. He said, I'm a foreigner and a stranger among you. Sell me some property for a burial site here so I can bury my dead. And the Hittites start negotiating. over what's called the Cave of Machpelah. And Abraham insisted on paying full market price because he didn't want anybody to ever say, to be able to take that away, to be able to say, oh, we didn't really sell it. And Ephron answered Abraham, he says, okay, go and bury your dead. And that's what he did. And to this day, you can go to Hebron, and you can see the burial place of Abraham and Sarah and Isaac and Rebekah and Jacob and Leah. So on the slides that you can't see, I have slides about cemeteries that are in terrible disrepair, the kinds of pictures that are in the back. But and a lot of you have traveled, and if you've traveled, like Rabbi Judd was talking about, you've been to Jewish cemeteries, and you've also seen other things. So my wife Doreen and I were in Barcelona recently, and we had a Jewish guide taking us around, and there was a church. And we saw on the wall of the church, there were stones with Hebrew writing. And she said, look at it carefully. And we realized that they were tombstones, that they had taken the stones from a Jewish cemetery and completely robbed everything and put those stones on the wall of the church, not to honor anybody, but to desecrate. And if you've traveled, you've seen this over and over. I remember being in Krakow in Poland, and the Nazis had come and had destroyed all of the stones. And so the Jewish people came and they took the stones and they put them up on a wall, and it became like a wailing wall. Every cemetery that we protect and we preserve holds countless memories. Whether we are clearing debris, or repairing a fallen stone, or fixing a sidewalk or a railing, or securing the gates, we are actively participating in the sacred cycle of remembrance. We honor them through this sacred trust. This community has a sacred obligation not only to bury, but to protect burials from desecration, from vandalism, and especially neglect. In Song of Songs it says, for love is as strong as death. The Song of Songs teaches us that love is as strong as death. We are reminded that love doesn't die. People might die, but love doesn't. The work of this association is a tangible, physical way of perpetuating our love for generations past. Just as we shovel that dirt, and the deceased cannot say thank you, those who are buried cannot thank you. But I can thank you. Thank you to everyone here who helps maintain the dignity of those who passed on so that they can rest in peace. Thanks to the wise people who started this organization. You prove that in our community, love really is stronger than death. Thank you.
Rabbi, before you take a seat, come on up here for one more moment. A gift from us and a token of our appreciation from...
Take it back.
Yeah. What? Do it for the...
I don't know what's going on.
Rabbi.
What do I do?
The rabbi brings humility to the nth degree.
Thank you, Rabbi, for those deeply moving words on the enduring nature of our relationships. Thank you to everyone who contributed to today's event, and especially to all of you for being here to honor our founders, Bob Goodman, Lester Margolis, and Stephen Saltzman. Our work to provide a dignified and respectful final resting place for our loved ones is a mission that carries forward from generation to generation. It's through your continued support, whether through participation at events like this, your generous contributions, or your commitment to life and legacy, that we are able to ensure that these sacred grounds remain tended and honored. I would like to thank Nosh Catering and the Tower's staff for the wonderful food today, ACES for creating our centerpieces and keeping our cemeteries clean and beautiful, the JCC maintenance staff and the marketing staff for helping us put this all together, and to my lovely bride Paige for taking all the pictures today. I would like to call up Rabbi Daniel Schaefer from Congregation Michigan Israel for the benediction. Let me say one more thing. We have these beautiful battery-operated memorial candles. There's some for everybody on this table here, and please feel free to take one on your way up.
Andy, also the caterer will give you some containers if somebody would like to take. If somebody would like to take something home.
The caterer brought containers, so please take food home.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to be with everybody this afternoon. This morning I got to go to the Michigan Israel Cemetery with Peter Alper and with our 5th through 8th graders and their parents to teach them about Jewish funerals and about mourning customs. And we talked about how burial, about Shiva, about the traditions are acts of love and respect, and to invite them into a process of understanding and honoring those who passed before us. I told them that in the Talmud it talks about how the ways that we walk after God, the ways that we imitate God, are by clothing the naked, about visiting the sick, about consoling mourners, and about burying the dead. Just as God did these things, so too can we do those things. It was amazing to see these 11-year-olds to 14-year-olds understand and to participate in rituals, to participate in the act of burying sacred books, which we did this morning, to learn about shoveling and how to honor their loved ones. Each of us is here today because somebody taught us that to honor our loved ones is a way that we can continue to maintain that relationship, continue to show that love. This morning, as we wrap up our program, I ask that the source of life bless all of us to continue to pass on that wisdom, to teach the next generation what it means to love those who have come before us, even those that we never had the chance to meet, to teach them how to show respect and how to honor the dead, and to strengthen those who are here to continue to bring vigor of life so that we maintain to look after those who have helped found the foundation of this community, who have strengthened it and sustained it for generations so that we may be here to thrive today. Please give us the love, O God. Please give us the strength. Please continue to be a source of blessing so that we may pass on this tradition and this source of love for generations to come. And let us say, Amen.
Andy Hogus reminds me that we are under an hour and we are good to go. Thank you all for being here, supporting our organization and the fine work that we do. You're welcome to take some food home and the memorial candles. Thank you.
You need one of the candles for the beach. Yep.
The centerpieces, which were designed by and made by ACES, work it out at each table, and you are welcome to take it home. They are actually herbs that can be replanted into your garden. The centerpieces are available for you to take home, work it out at your table. They are herbs that can be replanted.
He said herb, not weed.